I found the most satisfying build in Lies of P. This build does so much damage that it kinda ruined other weapons for me. The amount of crits that you can do reminds you of those deflect visuals in Sekiro. You can easily chew through a boss's health with ease. And you can't stop making complaint posts on Reddit on why Lies of P bosses are being way too hard. First of all, some weapons have something called critical rate. Critical rate is basically a chance to do an increased damage on any hit. They deal 50% more damage. You can recognize critical attacks from the animation. Now, there are a few weapons in the game that deal critical attacks, like Pistol Rock Drill Blade, Trident of the Covenant, Proof of Humanity. But the weapon we are covering today is Tyrant Murderer's Dagger. This is a stabbing weapon with a B scaling in technique and D scaling in motivity. The blade doesn't have the highest physical attack damage, but it has a 30% critical rate, and its Fable art also increases that. The weapon on its own is pretty much viable, but we are going to tweak some aspects of it to make it more powerful. You can change the handle to something that you are more comfortable with. I myself use Wintry Rapier's handle because it has a better moveset and it suits my playstyle better. You can also use a technique crank to up the scaling on technique and spending your points on only one stat. Now to make this build work, we are also going to use the Satisfaction Grindstone. The Satisfaction Grindstone increases your critical rate by 30%, which makes you deal more critical attacks. For the amulets, we are going with Assassin's Amulet, which increases your critical attack damage. This is a relatively endgame item, which you'll find it in the final area of the game, but it's worth the grind. For the next amulet, we are going to use the Arm of God amulet, which with every attack increases your damage with 3 to 4% for 5 seconds, with the max stack of 4. At maximum stack, you deal roughly 15% more damage for 5 seconds. The more damage you have, your critical attacks hit harder. If you also add the Extreme Modification Amulet to the mix, you will even have more damage. Every full Fable slot has a 4% damage increase. If you get the Fable slot talents in the P organ with 5 full Fable slots, you deal 20% more damage. But remember, you are going to use the Blade's Grind ability frequently, but even with that, you can balance it to utilize this amulet. For the final amulet, we are going with Carrier's Amulet +1 to increase your weight limit. If you are in the new game +2 or further, you can go with pretty much any amulet that you are more comfortable with. In your P organ, you are mainly going to focus on the talents that increase your Fable Art duration and Special Grindstone duration. Other talents are variable depending on your playstyle. For the stats, you are going to spend a few levels on your capacity and spending most of your levels on technique, vitality, and vigor. As for the Legion arm, this build works pretty much with any Legion arm, so you are free to choose any of them. But I mostly recommend Falcon Eyes or Puppet String. To obtain the dagger, you have to give one Venini collection to Pulcinella to unlock it in the shop. Giving him another one will also unlock the Satisfaction Grindstone. As for the playstyle, you are going to be very aggressive with your attacks. You can deal a huge amount of damage in a very short period of time. The only downside to this build, since we are going to play very aggressive, is that there is a high chance to compromise ourselves to enemy attacks, so you have to be very careful. The dagger also doesn't have a lot of reach, so you have to be in the point blank range for maximum efficiency. This build pretty much helps you to ease the challenges in the game, and I recommend it to newer players who struggle to find their footing in this game. As always, if you enjoyed watching this video, make sure to like and subscribe so I could finally quit working at 7-Eleven.